Salve galera, com o patrocínio da Billabong, HB e Texel e apoio das pranchas TBC e do Waves, nós começamos mais um episódio da série Surf TV no Circuito Mundial e no episódio nós teremos a participação de dois atletas do Circuito Mundial, a Kira Pinkerton, norte-americana que venceu há pouco tempo uma etapa do Mundial ISA, que contou com atletas da elite do surf mundial, venceu lá na Califórnia, e também com o havaiano e Michael DeVolt, que foi integrante do CT na primeira metade da temporada deste ano. Os dois são atletas do coach brasileiro Pedro Robalinho. Pedro Robalinho é técnico de surfistas de ponta há muitos anos, vive há algum tempo lá no Havaí, e o Michael e a Kira Pinkerton são atletas dele, estão no Rio de Janeiro para competir na etapa do Challenger Series de Saquarema. Passaram pela capital carioca, pegaram algumas ondas, a Kira chegou um pouco antes, pegou condições melhores, também foi para o Maracanã, conheceu o estádio aqui no Rio de Janeiro. Eles não pegaram condições tão boas aqui nos treinos na cidade do Rio, porque a gente está num período de ventos fortes do quadrante leste e já pela manhã, bem cedo, o vento tem entrado com muita força, então não deram sorte nos treinos, mas parece que na etapa do Challenger lá de Saquarema, onda não vai faltar, vai ter muita onda. E eu fui encontrá-los lá no Recreio dos Bandeirantes, junto com o jornalista e surfista Eduardo Chalita. E o Chalita fez uma entrevista com os dois surfistas, tem papos bem legais, assuntos bem interessantes, como a questão financeira, como também a diferença ali entre o CS e o CT, qual é mais difícil? Bom, não tirem conclusões precipitadas, vamos curtir o que eles falaram, tem coisas bem interessantes mesmo. E ao longo do episódio, claro, a gente vai conferir um pouco dos treinos deles aqui, tanto na Praia da Macumba, quanto também na Prainha, picos da Zona Oeste do Rio de Janeiro. Então é isso, galera, deixo vocês com as imagens deles treinando e também com a super entrevista e excelente entrevista que o Eduardo Chalita fez tanto com a Kira quanto com o Michael DeVolt. Espero que vocês gostem, já deixem o like, inscrevam-se no Surf TV e eu espero também os comentários de vocês, beleza, galera? Até a próxima. Um abraço!
Fala galera do Surf TV, estamos aqui no Rio de Janeiro, mais precisamente no Recreio, com dois tops do Surf Mundial, do Challenger Series, e Michael DeVolt aqui ao meu lado, à minha direita, e a Kira Pinkerton aqui à minha esquerda. Respectivamente, eles estão em 15º lugar do ranking do Challenger e ele em 16º lugar do ranking. E eles estão de passagem aqui pelo Rio, estão indo para Saquarema amanhã e a gente aproveitou para encontrar com eles e bater esse papo que vocês vão acompanhar agora. Okay, first of all, thank you guys for receiving us here, and it would be a pleasure for us to, having you guys both top surfers from the Challenger Series. So I was gonna ask you first, how long? I'm gonna ask you and you the same question. How long you've been competing on the world tour? How long have you started, like, just leaving your home and on the road?
Maybe like 8 years now.
Yeah?
Yeah. Started doing it when I was 12 years old and started traveling with my dad, and then I did almost every event of the year, and then I just got more and more into it every year.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. And when did you go from WQS surfer to actually a Challenger Series surfer?
Right when they started the Challenger Series, I remember, I think the first one was in Spain, and it was just like a bigger change of, like, it was a smaller amount of people in the event, and just more compact with the best surfers, and it was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, that's definitely a Challenger Series, I'm sure. I'm gonna ask Imai, how long have you been doing the tour? I mean, we know that you you qualified for the CT, and then you were out in a mid-year cut.
Yeah.
And how long have you been doing this on this war? To get to the WCT, and then how it's been for you?
I started full-time really doing the QS when I was 17. So not as young as a lot of people, because I went to high school and my school wouldn't really allow me to travel. So I stayed in school. Once I graduated, I started doing the QS, and I would say I I did the smaller QSs for a year, and then I qualified for the 10,000s before the Challenger Series, so the primes back then, for maybe 2 years before the Challenger Series.
So when the Challenger Series started, you were already in the top to qualify for the Challenger Series, or you had to go through some?
No, I was already in the 10,000, the prime events. So,
that's good.
Yeah, so I went straight into it from there.
So what is really actually challenging for you guys to be on this tour? We know that the Challenger Series, they don't pay as much as the CT. You know, I think we always talk about that. Actually, they don't pay that much anyway. So how do you think is this challenge actually to travel with kind of the short money that this tour allows you? How do you think about that?
I think it's more intense than I'd say before the challengers were here, just because it's a smaller amount of people, and it's just really good heats from the beginning. So like your first heat is like almost as good as any final, and it used to not really be like that exactly, and it makes it a lot harder too because you have to qualify for the Challenger Series so you are trying to qualify for the championship tour, so you're qualifying to make other things, and it's just a lot more added stress, I feel like, and it's hard because you want to do good and make more money to keep doing it, but it doesn't always allow that to happen.
Yeah, and how do you think about for a surfer that doesn't have sponsors? Do you think that the Challenger Series it's enough for them to get by, or do you think they have to put some money out of their pocket or something? How do you think about it?
It's really difficult if you don't have a sponsor to do it, definitely. Because I would say you're not making a profit or making any money unless you're making semifinals or more when you're traveling. So like it's so expensive to travel nowadays. So if you aren't making a lot of heats, you're really not making any money. You're probably losing money doing it. So without a sponsor, it'd be really difficult for sure.
Okay. Another question I want to ask is, we know that the Challenger Series, the contest, they start with in a format with 4-man heat, right? In my vision, I think that the 4-man heat is harder than when you get to the 3-man or man-to-man heat, because the same guy on a 4-man heat, one guy that won the contest before, he can lose on the first round on the next contest. I think it's really hard to go through those 4-man heats. What do you guys think about that? Do you kind of agree with me, or you feel free to disagree with me, man?
I think it's very hard. I think for the men's, the first 2 rounds are the 4-man heats, and I think those are the hardest, most difficult to make. Like for me, I've never lost in the 3-man heat before. Like I feel like that's easier for some reason than the 4-man. And then it's just really different. Once you get to the man-on-man, it's a lot more strategy. It's not as much luck, I would say, and like it can be really hard depending who you're against. But the 4-man heats are just definitely more difficult. There's so much more, that plays out. And everyone in the Challenger Series surfs so good that 4-man, you have 3 really good surfers, so it's really hard.
Yeah. How about you, Kira?
I agree.
What do you think?
Looking at the men's events, first round heats, I always see like the gnarliest stacked heats, like it could be a final. And same for the women's too. Like, just from the beginning, you're like, I always get first round jitters, so I'll get a little nervous for my first heat, but now it's like you can't allow any of that to happen because the first heats are just as hard as some of the last heats.
Yeah. For example, you in Portugal last year, you made the semifinal, and then on the next contest you lost. I lost
the second round.
Yeah, I lost in the second round. So it's like, for me, the Challenger Series, it's a way harder contest event than the CT.
Yeah. It's
in my opinion. Now I'm not even asking you a question. I'm kind of like having a conversation with you. I don't know if you guys, I want to get your answers about it, but having forming heat in a wave that maybe is not that good of, not that perfect. What do you think about that?
The Challenger Series is definitely, it's just really hard just because, the waves we surf most of the time aren't that great. So that makes it more challenging than the CT. The CT, the venues are obviously like world-class waves, and you're more likely to get good surf. Less heats, less guys, so you don't need as many days to run, so they can pick the better conditions. Where the Challenger Series, you kind of just, most of the time you're on no matter what, and you can be surfing the worst conditions ever. So in that case, it's a lot harder than the CT, but the level on the CT is so high that I can't say that it's easier or harder, but the Challenger Series is just more difficult with the conditions you get and just the amount of people that are in it. It's really hard.
Well, I agree that the level, of course, the level of the CT is way above. Once even the Challenger Series surfers, when they get to the CT, their level also grows, I think. But the fact that you have a forming heat in sometimes in waves that are not very constant, the lucky factor gets really high, right?
Yeah.
So in the CT, you cut more that luck factor, right?
Yeah.
And well, it sucks when you're not lucky in a heat, and then you don't do good in that contest, and then you see guys like Imai, like João Chianca, that has a level of a CT surfer, but they have to go through like this huge war, to get back to the CT. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, I would say it's just the hardest on the Challenger Series is the consistency, and that's what you need to get back. But like for me, I've had such an up and down year again on the Challenger Series, where I've made quarterfinals, and then the next event, I lost second round.
Yeah.
And the same with Joao. He made the final at U.S. Open, and the last contest, I think he lost like first round. So it's just so hard to keep a consistent, to be consistent in the Challenger Series, and that's for me what I'm learning and trying to get better at. But that's the hardest.
And Kira, what was your best result this year?
9th, I think.
Ninth.
Nothing good, but at least I'm consistent. I have like 5 9ths.
Yeah. Well, I see that you are on the number 15th in the rankings, and for the girls, it's kind of, the path is even shorter.
Yeah.
Because it's only like 5 girls that qualifies, right? So you're number 15. So do you have any? What's your expectations for this end of the year? You are like now I go Saquarema, and then what's your expectations after that?
I don't really expect anything. I just I'm still learning. I feel like I'm kind of like one of the younger surfers. So, last year or before COVID, I was actually getting 5ths in the Challengers, and I was doing really good. And then just like the past 2 years has been a little bit harder. I haven't gotten past the 9th place. And that's just kind of my goal for this event even, is just to get past that and get into quarterfinals. And then I feel like once I'm in the quarterfinals and get past that like blockage of like thinking I can't make it there, then I feel like I'll exceed to maybe making the finals or something.
Yeah. So do you guys think that's very mental? The technique, everybody has really good techniques, and some people you can see are better than the other, but in some conditions it changes and stuff. But what do you think about the mental ability you guys have to have during all this year to be a competitor with so many good surfers?
Yeah, I think that's the edge, having a really strong mental state is probably the most important, because every surfer I think surfs good enough anyone can win. So it really just comes down to being really strong mentally, and that's also how I think you stay consistent, is if you can really, keep your head on straight and not. For me, I get the first round jitters as well. Like, I think the first 2 rounds are the hardest for me because that's when I'm more nervous, and then once you make those heats, you get more confident. So I think the guys who are really strong mentally have that confidence from the start, from the very first round, and some guys are so consistent, and I think that's the level that you have to get to really make it.
All right.
Another thing too, actually, like if you think about it, each wave we've had has been so different from the contest before that, like, you can be surfing so good at one spot and you get to the next spot and you get nervous because maybe you're not surfing as good as you want to, or you see everyone else surfing, and it can kind of get in your head too, because you can surf really good at one spot but the next one is just completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes it harder too. Now, little changing of subject. You guys you haven't been to Brazil. This is the first time in Brazil, first time in Rio de Janeiro. Is there anything that you guys expect from the environment, from the contest, from from how you're gonna feel in Saquarema? What's your, little expectations?
I don't know, my first time here, I just didn't know what to expect exactly, and I do know that Brazilians are very passionate, loving people, and I think just from previous years when I've watched the events down here, I just see a lot of support for the Brazilian surfers, and I hope, I get to experience a little bit of that. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a life-changing experience for all the surfers.
Yeah.
And how about you, Imai?
Yeah, it's my first time here. I've always watched, the CTs and the contests that have happened here, and I've always wanted to visit, and it kind of reminds me of Hawaii in ways. It's like paradise here. It's beautiful, it's warm, and Saquarema looks like the wave has power, similar to Hawaii, so I was always excited to come and experience it. So, and the forecast looks really fun for the contest, so I'm really excited.
Yeah. Okay. So now I can see that we have 2 guys ready for Saquarema, and that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation, and let's check the contest in Saquarema.